When I began writing this book 6 years ago, I hoped that my text would bring the excitement and enthusiasm that I have for the study of public finance to the students taking this important course. I believe that a public finance text should help students understand the public finances, finance issues that are discussed on the front page of the newspaper every day. By presenting rigorous theory, cutting edge empirical evidence, and abundant policy relevant applications, I hoped that students would find the main lessons of public finance accessible and appealing, perhaps even enjoyable. With the success of the first two editions of this text, I am gratified and happy to say that my approach has found wide acceptance among instructors and their students across the country. By augmenting the traditional approach of public finance texts with a true integration of theory, application, and evidence, public finance and public policy has enabled instructors to better engage their students. Whenever a major theoretical concept is discussed, the discussion is augmented by examples of the policy relevance of the topic and, where available, evidence on the key relationship highlighted by the theory. For example, when discussing the impact of individual income taxation on labor supply in Chapter 21, I present the traditional theoretical analysis, discuss the available evidence on the responsiveness of labor supply to taxation, and then apply those insights to the discussion of the major tax subsidy to labor supply in the United States, the Earned Income Tax Credit, and in the discussions of externalities in chapters 5 and 6, the theoretical analysis of private and public solutions to externalities is followed by application of those solutions to the major environmental externalities such as global warming that face uh, policymakers today, and an examination of the empirical evidence on the effects of existing U.S. regulatory interventions in those areas. Features: public finance and public policy improves on previous texts in public finance in three ways. Updated selection of topics. Any public finance textbook must devote extensive discussion to issues of externalities and public goods, taxation, and direct government spending, and this book is no exception. Yet I also devote increased attention to the transfer and social insurance programs that dominate government activity. The text is organized around four key areas: introduction and background. The first section of the book is devoted to motivating the study of public finance, beginning in Chapter 1. With a timely discussion of the debates over the proper size and mix of government spending and tax relief in the recent stimulus bill, as well as other major public policy debates on the day. The book then reviews background skills in Chapter 2, microeconomic theory, Chapter 3, empirical methodology, and Chapter 4, government budgeting. I recognize that students come to their public finance courses with highly varying levels of skills in economics. This course requires familiarity with introductory microeconomics, but no more. All other required skills are reviewed in these background chapters. Chapter 3 on empirical methods provides students with all the background they need to interpret the empirical evidence boxes throughout the text. In addition, by moving the discussion of government budgeting from its traditional orphan spot at the end of textbooks, I allow the discussion of other topics throughout the book, such as Social Security and tax policy, to draw on the insights developed in Chapter 4 about the role of the budget in policy debates. Externalities and public goods. The discussion of externalities begins in Chapter 5 with a discussion of private and public solutions to the problem of externalities, and then continues in Chapter 6 by focusing on the two major public policy issues involving externalities. Environmental externalities such as acid rain and global warming, and health externalities. The section on public goods begins in Chapter 7 with a discussion of private and public solutions to the public goods problem, and then highlights two of the major issues in public provision: cost-benefit analysis, Chapter 8, and political economy, Chapter 9. I then turn to the role of state and local governments as providers of public goods, highlighting the potential efficiencies and costs of decentralization in Chapter 10 before discussing education, one of the most important public goods in the United States, in Chapter 11. Social insurance and redistribution. I've been gratified that instructors have responded positively to this book's major innovation: the expanded discussion of social insurance and redistribution, the latest and fastest growing function of government. This section begins with a novel chapter on the theory of social insurance. Chapter 12 highlights the reasons we have social insurance, its role in crowding out private self-insurance, and the problems of moral hazard. And then include a separate chapter on the nation's largest social insurance program, Social Security, Chapter 13, and another on the three other non-health social insurance programs: unemployment insurance, disability insurance, and workers' compensation, Chapter 14. Given the enormous and growing role of government in the provision of healthcare, I devote 2 chapters to this topic. First, discussing the nature of health insurance and health economics in Chapter 15, and then focusing on the government's role in Chapter 16. In particular, highlighting the current debates over forming the nation's healthcare system. Finally, Chapter 17 discusses the role of government as a redistributive agent through welfare programs. Taxation in Theory and Practice. The feedback on the novel organization of the tax related chapters has been very positive. The coverage of taxation begins with the key institutional features and theoretical concepts such as vertical equity and the Hague Simmons tax base that are central to understanding tax policy, discussed in Chapter 18. Next are two chapters that cover the theoretical underpinnings of tax incidence, Chapter 19, and Tax Efficiency Analysis, Chapter 20. These chapters include applications to measure the incidence of taxation in the United States and to design optimal commodity taxes. The next three chapters focus on the behavioral responses of individuals to income taxation and discuss key tax policies that affect those behaviors, labor supply, and the EITC, capitals EITC, in Chapter 21, savings and tax subsidized retirement savings in Chapter 22, and the distribution of asset holdings and capital gains, estate, and property taxes in Chapter 23. Chapter 24 presents an overview of the corporate income tax and reviews the key equity and efficiency issues that are the focus of corporate tax debates. Finally, Chapter 25, a chapter that has received an overwhelmingly positive response from those teaching from the book, concludes by discussing the motivations for, barriers to, and approaches to fundamental reform of taxation policies in the United States.